What up, Street Dogs? Air Kim. Alright, so the random turbo thought. Why is privilege seen as bad or evil or whatever? So this is insofar much as I understood after thinking about this for a while. We in, the world or human nature, I think we actually tend to be, we actually prefer hierarchy. Like, we want leaders, we want followers and stuff like that. And even good old Nietzsche said, what is the ideal man? The ideal man is two things. One, who knows how to obey, and also who knows how to command. So it seems the downside right now is that there's so many people who are really good at obeying and following directions and following the rules or whatever. But there's very few people who actually know how to command and impute their own will upon things without necessarily having to fall back on another authority figure. So if you have a certain opinion, outside of mathematics and physics perhaps, your opinion actually doesn't really need to be backed up by nothing. It just needs to be backed up by your authenticity, your genuineness, your own experiences. And there's really no right or wrong when it comes to your opinion. Now, how has we tried to do this to approaching this to our own lives? So my basic thoughts is this. When it comes to life, strive to assert your opinion, and don't feel like you don't gotta like quote nobody else too, because I think, and also like one doesn't really even need to quote oneself either, but when in doubt, it's probably better to quote yourself than to quote other people, because everybody has a different opinion, everyone has a different life experience, and it doesn't really matter who you are. What's more important is your specific take on things and like what you want to do about it. So it's important to impute and assert your will into things, to create things, and not to need nobody for their permission before doing it. So I had this mantra that I followed for a long time: is it's better to beg for forgiveness than ask for permission. Maybe we could simplify it. Just don't ask for permission. And even if you get in trouble, you don't have to beg for forgiveness. Just do it. I mean the Nike logo, right? My personal thought is, essentially it just comes down to fear, right? It's like the reason why we don't try or attempt things is fear that we're gonna be punished by our headmaster, our teacher, society, or maybe even this is where religion holds us back, is that like fear of eternal damnation and afterlife, which is kind of a scary thought. But let's assume you don't believe in none of that. Then what is really holding you back in life? Then it seems what's really holding us back in life is, Black Rhino in the house. Shout out to John Narciso. So what's essentially holding us back in life is, I feel like everyone just needs to fall back on an authority figure, and no one is willing to assert themselves as an authority figure. And so this is what I think a great leader or a great commander does. They just have the balls to essentially assert themselves and to put themselves out there without feeling like they need to talk about nobody else. Now, even when I like to read other philosophers or thinkers or artists, it's not that I see their knowledge or ideas as the totem of truth. Essentially, it's just acting as like a stimulus to my own thinking. So, the reason I like to listen to Jay-Z, the new Jay Electronica album is phenomenal. Is that it just acts as a stimulus to me. It kind of gets me going, it kind of gets me thinking, it adds more motion to my legs, and anything that can make you dance is kind of a good thing. So I'm like, jamming out to the live Jay Electronica album release thing on YouTube, and I was just like, bobbing my head, and I'm like in the zone. So certainly anything that uplifts your mood, that puts energy into your legs, is a good thing, because what tends to hold us back is that most of us is static, like you don't move around. But it seems that the best life is the life of maximum movement, maximum dance, maximum vigor in your legs. So anything you could do that gets you out of the house more and move around more generally tends to be a good thing. So what stimulates me? You know, drinking a lot of water, coffee. I think intermittent fasting is actually a big tip, because certainly once you have a big ass meal and you fall victim to food coma, you have zero incentive to go out and move, right? You just want to take a nap, right? And I think, you know, if I wanted to hack my biology, it seems like it makes more sense that during the day, you go hungry, you drink a lot of coffee, you walk around, you act a lot, you do stuff, work out, whatever. You go hunting during the day. And at night, when the sun goes down, when you break your fast, then you just feast like a motherfucker, and you allow yourself to fall into food coma, and then you sleep deeply. Whereas a lot of these, like, I think the fallacious notion of Silicon Valley is thinking that one can somehow be eternally awake without needing rest. So anybody who's like, yo, I only sleep 2 hours a night or whatever, I'm like, you're stupid, right? Like, if you want to maximize your productivity during your waking hours, certainly you must also do the converse, which is maximize your sleeping times. And so even for me now, I'm actually not trying to force myself to be productive during the day. Actually, what I try to do is force myself to sleep good at night, which means limit my caffeine consumption past a certain time. After I, you know, have my dinner and I break my fast and I eat my 5 pounds of pork or whatever, then forcing myself not to be productive. And actually in today's world, to force yourself not to be productive is probably more difficult and challenging than to force yourself to be productive all the time. Because that's like our typical modus operandi nowadays, is that like one must always be productive or else one is sinning and is therefore a despicable person. But no, like productivity fasts are actually good for your body and your mind and good for your health and stuff like that. So what is the basic gist and the encouragement I want to give to you is, when it comes to productivity, motivation, and life and stuff like that, put more faith in the body, put more faith in, you know, physical strength and vigor, and know that typically when it comes to most of our mental problems, it originates somewhere in the body. And, you know, like, if you could, you know, once you make yourself physiologically healthy, right? Like let's assume you could now again sleep deeply, 8 to 10 hours a night. You eat a lot of delicious meat, nice fatty cuts of meat. Eat some bitter herbs or some like collard greens, kale, whatever you have it. You know, cut out sweets, alcohol, weed, whatever it may be. And, you know, you walk around a lot, you get a lot of sunlight. And if you're still depressed, then maybe it's kind of more of a moral, ethical, psychological issue that we got in our heads. But if we focus on improving our human physiology, this seems like the first logical step. So I know that, you know, for me, I get very depressed when I'm indoors all day. And if I haven't slept good or I have poor digestion, that makes me feel very depressed. But once I'm able to improve my physiological health, then everything's a lot better. And when am I the happiest? When I'm the most physiologically awake, when I'm, you know, working out, when I'm getting the adrenaline pump from lifting weights or stuff like that. And so realize that putting more trust in your hormones is probably good, not putting faith in this like so-called mind. The mind is just a reflection of your body. And so if you put your body first, everything will follow.